Hey everyone, and welcome. I'm really excited to be sharing with you today. We did a poll the other day in the group. I got a good amount of responses with that, just seeing what's most important to people as far as their finances go. And the top response was paying off debt as soon as possible, followed with a tie by just getting a full-scale plan together and saving and investing more money. So what I wanted to do was start off with debt, that being the most popular response. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to draw out a concept for you called debt stacking. If you're familiar with Dave Ramsey at all, this may be familiar to you. It's just a method of paying off debts faster and a lot of times decades faster. And sort of ironically, a lot of times, depending on the situation, if you have more debts, a lot of times it speeds up the process, which is kind of ironic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a whiteboard on the screen, and I'm using a super basic one. I need to find a better one, but it'll work for now. And so I'm just going to show you guys this concept. It's called debt stacking, like I said. And so we'll quickly go through this. And by the way, this is something that I help people with totally for free, no charge at all. So after watching this, if this is something you want to take advantage of to really help you get a hold of your debts, let's set up a time to talk and go through this together. And so it's also called debt snowballing, but I usually call it debt stacking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out uh, kind of an example here of what I would say is a pretty typical debt situation. All right, so I'm going to say they've got, one car loan one here, car loan two. Let's say they've got a credit card one, credit card two, got a house loan, and let's say student loans. All right, handwriting is not the greatest, but legible. And what we're going to do is also write out the balances here. I'm going off a kind of a made-up example, but again, I would say this is pretty typical. I'm going to change colors here to make it slightly easier to read. Um, and so let's say the car balance for this one is 25,000. Okay, let's say the balance left on the second car is 5,000. Credit card one, 2,000. Credit card two, 2,000. House, let's say there's 150,000 left on there, and let's say the student loan is 50,000. All right. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned this. The way I do this to help people is actually via software, right? So this is not something that we have to write out on paper and like do the calculations in our head or use calculators, or whatever. Actually, the computer does it all for us. We just list them out in the program, and it calculates the fastest way for them to pay it off for you. All right, so let's switch over to red color here. Let's say the minimum payment for the car, the first one is 400. The second car payment is 150. These are the minimums, by the way. So credit cards, let's say they're both 50 minimums. House minimum, let's just say 1,000. And let's say the student loans are 500, which is pretty darn high. You can actually go on an income-based repayment plan, and that could probably free up a lot of money for you. A lot of times, like for incomes under 70,000, your minimum payment is going to be like less than $100. And then, if you do that for, I forget if it's 10 or 20 years, they actually forgive the rest at the end. But with debt stacking, you know, that will speed up your process anyways. Let's switch back to blue. Let's say additional payments. We're not doing any additional payments on these right now, but what a lot of people do is what's called shotgunning. And, because most of us are taught never just to only make the minimums on our debt payments, do more. And that way you can pay them off faster, right? But the problem is if you're doing a little bit more on all of your debts or multiple debts, even just two debts, you're kind of spinning your wheels. While you may pay them off faster, it's not as fast as it could be by using this method. All right, so what's our total monthly payments between all this? $2,150. So $2,150 is our total monthly payments for these debts. And so now what I'm going to do, instead of just, straight paying off the minimums and hopefully one day you'll pay them all off, or paying a little bit here and there on multiple debts, here's how debt stacking works. And earlier I said I'm using a super basic whiteboard because I'm going to have to erase it all by hand instead of just being able to erase the whole screen, but that's all right. So now what we're going to do is do debt stacking. So what we do, now we know what all the amounts are. We've got the minimums listed out. We've got the interest rates listed out, which I forgot to write down the interest rates, but that's okay because the concept works the same. And you can really prioritize a couple of ways. You can prioritize paying off the highest interest debt first, which is fine. But usually the way to do this is to focus on the lowest balance first. There's a couple reasons why. And the main one is because it kind of gives you a feeling of accomplishment and fulfillment when you pay it off, right? There's more momentum and you feel good when you pay it off. It's kind of more tangible that way, and it will still save you a lot of money and interest and payments down the road. So what we're going to do is I listed those debts out. We're going to focus on the smallest debt first, which is, let's just pick the credit card. Actually, let's pick the credit card with the higher interest rate. So there's one that's 18% interest rate, $2,000, right? So we're doing minimums on all of these payments, by the way, that I listed out earlier. We're doing minimums on all the payments, okay? So now what we're going to do, once that's paid off, we will roll that payment into the next smallest debt, which is the credit card, which is also $2,000. But now instead of only paying $50, we combine those minimums, right? Because the minimums on the credit cards were only $50 a piece. But now what we've done, since we paid off that first credit card, we're going to take that $50 that we were spending on credit card 1 and apply it to credit card 2. Right? So this is where a little bit of discipline comes in, because we have to, instead of just, now we have an extra $50 in our budget, what would most people do? Just go out and spend it on something else, right? What we're going to do instead is take that $50 that we were already spending in our previous budget and roll it into the next thing. So now instead of paying $50 on the credit card, now we're paying $100. And I'll put that right there. Okay? So now we're spending $100 towards that second credit card when the minimum is only $50, right? So you can see how that would speed that up. Okay? And now we're going to roll, once that credit card's paid off, we're going to roll it into the next smallest debt, which is the car 2 of $5,000. So car 2, just going to put $5K for shorthand. And now, so the minimum payment on car 2 is $150. And now we're going to take that $100 and apply it to that. So now we're paying $250 towards the credit card, or the car loan 2, excuse me. And so I think you kind of get the idea from here. You just keep going. The next one would be car 1, and that balance is $25,000. Okay, and now the payment, we're taking that $250 plus the minimum is $650. So now you're really starting to see the fruits of your labor, because you can see now you're paying a lot of extra money on your debts. Okay, and I'm kind of running out of space here, but you get the idea. I'll just kind of draw an arrow up this way now. So the next one is the student loans. So student of $50,000. And now our minimum payment on that, check this out. See, the minimum was $500. Now we add that $650. Now we're at math in the head, you know. So now we're at $1,150, right? Instead of only $500. So you can see how that would pay that off much, much faster, right? And then last but not least, the house payment, which the balance on that is $150,000. So house, $150,000. And now the minimum payment on that bad boy is $2,150. And here's the important thing to remember, guys. Probably the single best thing about this method is that we're not asking for any more money out of your budget, right? You were already putting $2,150 towards your debts in the previous budget, right? But it does take some discipline. So we're using the same $2,150 this whole time. We're just making sure that we continue to apply it to the next debt, okay? And that's how this process works. Now, you could throw extra money at this if you wanted to, right? On your first credit card that we started at the very beginning, let's say you want to do an extra $50 on top of your minimum payment to start this program. You could do that and then continue to roll that amount of money into the next debt and the next debt and so on. and that would obviously speed it up. Now, so that's how the concept works, and I'm going to erase all of this, and what I'm going to do, actually I don't even need this whiteboard anymore. All right, so here's that debt page. So based off those numbers that I was just showing you on the whiteboard, here's the difference, guys. Right, so the same $2,150 on both sides, but look at the dramatic difference. Right, just doing it the normal way, those folks would have been in debt until they were 70 years old. Right, they would have paid almost 100 grand in interests, and it would take 35 years to pay it off. But using debt stacking, the same exact money, guys, check it out. They save almost $30,000 in interest, and they pay it off in 11 years and 7 months, which is 23 and a half years sooner, right? With no extra money out of their pocket. That is the power of debt stacking, guys. And so I hope that was helpful. If you are interested in doing this at all, it's totally free. I would love to help you. Let's set up a time to get together and talk so that you can take advantage of this wonderful method and really take care of those debts. Because just imagine how much difference that makes, right? If you have $30,000 extra over the course of your life that's no longer going to interest payments, imagine what could be done with that money. Or now that you're out of debt sooner, you're out of debt 23 years and a half sooner, now what can you do with that $2,000? Right? You can save it, you can do whatever you want with it. Now you have the extra freedom at age 45 or 46 in this example. You have so much time now to really utilize that $2,150, and that is how we turn debt into wealth. So I'm going to stop it right there. I appreciate you guys checking this out, and we will see you next time.